today, in this history video, this is the only time I'm doing a history video. For many requests, don't even ask me about a damn history video again. Because I don't want to flex and show my knowledge. I don't want to flex. So today, we will study the elections from 1788 to 2020. I'm going to tell you who I would vote for. So, you all know I'm from the state of Georgia. My family originally came from the British Isles, and somehow they got, kidnapped and forced into slavery, like every black person's family probably did, and they were moved into the state of Georgia in 1771. So, eventually, my great ancestor was a free man. He fought in the American Revolution, and he ended up dying at Bunker Hill. So, we're going to go through the first presidential election in the United States. So, basically, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, so we have 12 candidates for the presidency. Everybody wants to be the first president of the United States. Everyone gets an equal amount of votes. Oh, shit. Okay. So, 12 candidates. Let's see. George Washington was the hero of the Revolutionary War. And he's from my favorite state in the U.S., Virginia, which is next door to my first favorite state, which is Washington. Soon-to-be state, okay? Soon-to-be state. John Adams, he's from another favorite state of mine, Massachusetts. He's a Federalist. And with my opinion, I don't like Federalists. I'm a Democratic Republican. I can proudly say that. John Jay, still don't like him. Robert Harrison, forget about him. John Rultich? What? Whoever can spell this guy's name, please type it in the comments. Federalist, I do like South Carolina, but forget that. No. John Hancock. With a name like that, how can you ever win the presidency? With a last name like that. But, he was a good president of Continental Congress. He was good at that. But I wouldn't pick him as president of the United States. George Clinton, I think he would be a good president for an anti-federalist. Sam Huntington and John Milton, James Armstrong, Benjamin Lincoln, and Edward Telfair. I think they would all be good in the administration for George Washington. So my conclusion, between all the history facts I know about these people, Washington was the hero of the Revolutionary War, and he wanted the government to make their own judicial system instead of him being a dictator like Napoleon Bonaparte. So I think I'd choose Washington, for real. 1792. Washington has served 4 years in office. Alright, so we got some interesting people here. We got George Washington again, favorite, John Adams, George Clinton, Thomas Jefferson. Oh, God. They're gonna make me choose. And Aaron Burr. Alright, between these people, I wouldn't vote Washington again. I'd vote Jefferson. I vote Jefferson. Come on. He's the father of the Declaration of Independence. He's the father of it. So I have to. Alright, 1796. Oh, shit. So we got the same interesting people. If any of you in this drink beer, then you might be familiar with Samuel Adams. Okay, so basically, I'm only going to choose between these 5. Hold up. I'm only going to choose... Alright, guys, I'm only going to choose between these 6 and Washington. See, with this, Washington, I would not vote for. He's already been... Someone's running for him. Thing is that if I voted him before, there's a hard chance. Alright, sorry. Alright, God. Well, so I've made my decision. Out of these 6 people, I'd vote Jefferson again. I swear I would. Swear. Okay, 1800. If I voted for Jefferson before, y'all already know I'm gonna vote for Jefferson. So I mean, Aaron Burr. I mean, it's a fact. Aaron Burr may be a kind of like a good politician, but he's not the type that would literally get my attention. Like Donald Trump, he's kind of like the politician that will get people's attention and keep that attention for a long time. Joe Biden pops up in the picture again after 4 years out of being vice president, and he got people's attention right away. Aaron Burr isn't my Joe Biden, isn't my Donald Trump, and for my opinion, he's not my Barack Obama in this part of history. So Thomas Jefferson all the way. So I would just tell you that. 1804. Only two candidates. So Charles Pinckney, I think he was a general in the Revolutionary War. I know he was in the Revolution. I think he would give a good military vibe to the White House. At the time, the White House did exist. Fun fact, John Adams was the first president to ever sleep in the White House, to ever even breathe and live in the White House, including he was the first president to ever be in the District of Columbia. So, like, okay, so I would totally choose Jefferson for sure in 1804, because he bought Louisiana. Yes. When I mean Louisiana, I'm going to the map right now. And this. I mean, he bought this right here. Louisiana. Yes. And he... What? Hold up. Sorry. Guys. I'm a pop. Okay. Okay, guys, I am back to the video. Let's give it a try. Either of us doesn't think it's gonna work out. No harm, no foul. Thank you for the opportunity. What? Again? Phone. Quit. Cap. Phone. Stop.
I get why Eric lost the drive-by car down here. Yeah. A warehouse isn't garage, it's a ditch, man. Yeah.
Alright, so guys, so in 1804, I choose Jefferson. So, next, we go to 1808. Oh, this is actually hard for me to choose. I mean, James Madison is not my favorite. I'm a fan of sticking it to Great Britain, of course. But I have to realize I do have a British descent and a Irish, along with a sort of French mix. So I would not vote for him in 1808. I would not vote for him at all. I would vote for Charles Pinckney. I would. Even though he's a Federalist, I would. But, fun fact, after Jefferson's win in 1800 and in 1804, this would begin years of Democratic-Republican dominance in the presidency. Next in 1812, I mean, it's the War of 1812 current. This is like the current war. So, what I would definitely vote for Madison. Because Louisiana was able to vote, so I said, hey, I think I'll just pull it ahead. Now we got 1816. Oh, James Monroe. I'd vote for Monroe. I'd vote for him. I don't even have to say why. Oh, new states have popped up in the Union. Oh, boy. So, James Monroe. He's, like, undefeated. Like, literally, no one's running against him. John Quincy Adams only got 1 vote. I mean, I would not vote for John Quincy Adams, but surely, which state voted for Adams? New Hampshire. She's got 1.7 million subscribers and a good 10,000 solid haters. Now, her management says they have had threats of past appearances. Okay, but anyway, I would still vote for Monroe. I mean, come on. Damn it, why does this thing do this to me? Why does this thing hate me? God. 1920. 1924, oh boy. This is what we call the corrupt bargain. This is what they called the corrupt bargain. So John Quincy Adams, there's no giant split. There's no lead between the electoral votes. But I can clearly see, being the person that loves history and studies the presidential elections as much as he can off camera and on camera, I can see that Andrew Jackson is the true winner of the presidential election by electoral votes and popular vote. Because now look, Adams had someone in the Senate that wanted him to be president, who was running against Jackson. So what he did, he paid him in advance to do that. I know plenty of people in the chat, I'm not on Twitch, I'm on YouTube. Plenty of people in the comment section are going to disagree with me. I know, it's my opinion, just let it be there. Also, I would vote no, I would not vote Jackson. If you thought I was going to say Andrew Jackson, you damn wrong. I would vote for John Quincy Adams. 828. Alright, so 1828. I would definitely vote for... I'd vote for John Quincy Adams. I'd vote for him. I'd vote for Henry Clay. I'd say I will. Because I would vote for anyone against Jackson. Any person against Jackson. I would vote for the next person that has the next number of electorals. Oh, we are away from the era of Jackson. I would vote William Henry Harrison. Yes. So basically, I'm still a Democratic Republican, but the Democratic Republican switches into different parties. Like, it goes from Democratic, and then the Republican part splits. So it's just Democratic, Republican, and then Whig. So, in this day and age, I'd be a Whig. So I'd choose Harrison, for sure. And, plus, alright, so basically the backstory is I was born in 1788, and my name is John Brennickage from Ohio. That's my entire character bio in this episode. In 1840, I would vote William Henry Harrison against Martin Van Ruin. Next, James K. Oh, actually, hold up. William Henry Harrison. Okay, well, I'm going to have to break down this history for you and the reason why Harrison did run for a second term. And many of you probably know this already, but I'm going to break it down anyway, so listen up. Alright, so William Henry Harrison only survived a month into his presidency because of the fact that when he made the longest speech in American presidential history, he didn't wear an overcoat or a hat, and he caught pneumonia and died almost a month into his presidency. Eventually, John Tyler took the road. Eventually negotiated with the Indians in Florida and got us the Florida Territory. He wanted to annex Texas into the United States, but Congress denied him the right to annex Texas. Later, in the Democratic Party, James K. Polk was picked as president, and from this day forward, this would lead into Democratic. This would shift between Democratic and Whigs. So, James K. Polk, one of my favorite presidents in the 1800s. So, James K. Polk was the 11th president of the United States. He declared war on Mexico because legally it does say in the Monroe Doctrine, America's territory, this territory that we call the United States of America, the mainland, not Alaska or Hawaii included, but this area called the United States, from Virginia all the way to California, all the way up north, from Michigan across to Washington and Oregon, from Georgia to Florida to Texas, across to New Mexico to Arizona, and from Missouri all the way to Nevada. That's the United States. That's its territory. And I believe that Mexico did not have a right to take that territory. The Monroe Doctrine does say that if any other nation goes and prevents the Americans to get to the Pacific, there shall be war and consequences. So, and Mexico reaped the consequences. So James K. Polk ended up dying a month after his presidency. So anyway, we go to Zachary Taylor. Why? Hold up. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to end the video here. Hello, guys. I am back again to the video. So anyway, I've explained. Alright, so Zachary Taylor was the 12th president of the United States. So what happened to him was, let's see. So the Washington Monument at that time was not even completed yet. So Taylor went to the grand unveiling of the half completion of the Washington Monument one day in the summer of 1850. And in 1850, in Washington, D.C., they had an alert out for Publius Chlorella, a poisoned sewer system. Like, the water was poisoned. So, but Zachary Taylor sat out there wearing all black for about 4 or 5 hours. And then what happened was, when he went back to the White House that night, he came in a cold sweat. He was parched. And what happened was, he was, so what he did, the last thing he ate before he died, so what he ate was a lot of cherries, some cherries, a lot of green apples, and some iced milk. So, and then he ended up catching chlorella, and he died 2 weeks later. So, yeah. His successor, Millard Fillmore, signed in the dreaded law called the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. And after that, the Missouri Compromise said that states that were under the Missouri area, states that were under it, would be under the control of, that could be open to slavery, except for the Indian Territory, which was Texas. No, not Texas. The Indian Territory that we all know as, what was it called? The Indian Territory that was always known as Oklahoma. So, after that, that whole debacle between the Missouri Compromise, Franklin Pierce. So Franklin Pierce in the year 1852 won the presidency with 254 electoral votes against one Winfield Scott. But George Troup, George Broome, Daniel Webster, and Mr. John Pale. So, here's the thing. So, basically, these other parties, besides Winfield Scott and Franklin Pierce, focused on different objectives except for the United States. Like the Union Party. The Union Party was created in Massachusetts in 1849. So, basically, the Union Party was created. Their goal was to keep the U.S. together without having slavery, which led to the Civil War. George Broome was a Native American from Pennsylvania. He made the Native American Party so Native Americans could have a say in the vote for the presidency. So Native Americans could have a say in the government. But George Troup was a part of the Southern Rights Party in Georgia. This is the only, party and person in this election that is from the South. And George Troup was for the Southern Rights Party. So, the Southern Rights Party, he focused on the rights of the Southern people to have slavery out west. But, it did not work out for them. So, before Franklin Pierce would ever think he would run again for president. So before Franklin Pierce thought he was going to run again for president, what happened was is that the Kansas-Nebraska Act. I mean, Kansas would be a slave state and Nebraska would be a free state. Nebraska is above Kansas. And they said anything that's below Missouri is a slave state during the Missouri Compromise. It also stopped slave trade in the District of Columbia. Because now look, Missouri, Kentucky, Virginia, it goes past D.C. and Maryland. So that means at that time, Maryland would not be considered a slave state. But it was. But here's the thing. Franklin Pierce ended up getting the one problem that lost his spot in 1856, which would be the Bleeding Kansas. That problem would be Bleeding Kansas. And Bleeding Kansas, he thought it was not a problem until it happened. Basically, this is only part one of the video. So, then we have James Buchanan. He's not really my type of president. He was one of the worst presidents in history, by far. But also, here's the thing. The first Republican ran for president. And this is the first Republican that lost. Millard Fillmore, the American Whig Party from New York, he ended up only getting 8 votes. But here's the thing. James Buchanan ended up with the Scott, but the slave that was traveling in free states with his master. Eventually, it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that he was property, he was not a person. He was property. So, I guess that's why many black people in this modern day and age kind of look at white people the way they do because of what? I think I see why black people look at white people differently and a lot angrier, but I see why white people look at black people a lot different, because most of them probably don't even know a black person, or some of us probably don't even know a white person, so I can't say anything bad about it. So, I mean, partially it might be my fault if I get in a fight with a white person. It's gonna be my fault, probably not gonna be his fault. But anyway, like I said, James Buchanan was the worst president in history, and he said this. See, it came up to the president to decide whether that black person would be free or he would be a slave. So, James Buchanan simply said these words. If the Supreme Court decided it, the law is the law. So remember, James Buchanan was a lawyer before this. And he lost his spot as the Democratic candidate. Here we go to our favorite part, 1860. So in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican from Illinois. He's the first Republican to win the presidential office. After Abraham Lincoln wins, this promotes years and years and years of Republican dominance throughout the United States. That means the Republicans are more dominant. So Abraham Lincoln, at the time, he didn't think he would win the presidency. But he did. He was running against 3 other people. He was running between John C. Breckinridge, John Bell, and Stephen A. Douglas from Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So basically, the other 3 people that he was running against were mainly from southern states. The last person, Stephen A. Douglas, was from the same state Lincoln was in Illinois. So anyway, the election ended up turning out that Lincoln had won. In South Carolina, all over the South, in the southern states like Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina and South Carolina, they had met up and they would talk about seceding from the Union. They had talked about leaving the Union. South Carolina was the first state to become the first. It was the first Confederate state. Originally, the capital of the Confederate States was in Montgomery, Alabama. It was later moved to Richmond, Virginia, so it could be close to Washington, D.C. So that would move Lee's army close to D.C., so there would be a lot of intense fighting in the first year of the Civil War. Lincoln even said that he didn't want to stop the institution of slavery. He said if he could save the Union by keeping slaves in bondage, he could. He would. He said if he could keep slaves half free and half not free, he would. He also said that if he could free them all entirely for the cause to keep the Union together, he would. So the Emancipation Proclamation at the time, when the war started, it was not about slavery. Eventually, it was not. At first, it was about preserving the Union and keeping the Union together. Many of the Southerners that are probably watching this or probably going to watch this, your parents must have told you that the Civil War was about states' rights. They damn sure lied to you. It was about slavery. It was about those other things, but it boiled down to a point to where this was the last thing. Like the last thing they could do. It's like it was the last thing the Civil War boiled down to. Out of all the things that the Civil War could have erupted on, the last thing it erupted on is slavery. They thought that Abraham Lincoln, most of the Southerners said in the South, vote Democratic because Lincoln's going to take your slaves. Lincoln eventually did take slaves. Eventually he did. But it was for the cause of the Union. But also, before, he wanted to be a military thing. To the people on the field fighting for the Union's cause, they thought it was just for the military until Lincoln probably realized this, that hey, if the blacks are in the land of the free. America at the time was called the land of the free and the home of the brave. And it was the home of the brave, but wasn't really the land of the free, because it does say that everyone has free and equal rights. It also says in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. Plenty of people misinterpret that to only being white men are created equal, or men that are of color and men that are tan or Hispanic are not created equal. People misinterpret that so much in this day and age that they boil down to the point where it's pure violence and chaos. And we've all seen enough violence and chaos. Like in 2019, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all the other dozens of black people that have been killed over police brutality. I don't think the police should be defunded, because the police are trying to protect and serve. And I do see that George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were killed out of injustice because of racist police officers. But here's the thing. The police need to focus on the bad apples. What they need to start doing is running background checks and criminal history on those people. On the people they put on the force at first before they give them the badge. They need to run a background check. And they also need to ask friends of theirs if they've ever been abusive. If they need to ask family members if they've been abusive of their power. And they need to see if they've ever been incarcerated before. So that needs to be done. I don't see the police as being bad. I mean, some of my friends' parents are police officers. I go over to their houses. Me and their parents. We just talk about how we could make the U.S. black citizens safer, like the Hispanic citizens. Thing is, and also today, Kamala Harris did say that the U.S. isn't going to allow people across the border. So it did piss me off at first, until I heard her reasons of why she doesn't want people from Guatemala, Honduras, and the area down there near Panama and Mexico to come into the U.S. because of the coronavirus. And we don't know where those people have been. We don't know if they wore their mask. We don't know if they're bringing something illegal. I see why Trump built the border wall. I see why he said he was going to build it. I see why he didn't allow plenty of Mexican people or Hispanics or Latinos to come into the U.S. legally. And illegal aliens, I don't really call them illegal aliens. I don't call them aliens at all, because that's just biased. whoever calls someone an illegal alien, if they call someone an alien, period, that's bias. I can say you're biased. The thing is with me, I'm not biased. I just feel like I have to go with my gut. And Kamala Harris went with her brain and her gut. She did the exact thing I would do. Like, if I was in her position, if I was in Biden's position, if I was in Trump's position, if I was in Obama's position, I would say, please, stay across the border in Mexico. The U.S. will be able to let you in if such and such stops. If the virus stops, such and such, they can be allowed to come across the border. But I don't see why many people say they don't care about what the U.S. said about them not coming back across the border. It's just that I've seen I see the reason why they're coming across the border, because in many of those countries in Central America and in basic Mexico, many of those cities and towns are really dangerous. They have drugs, traffickers, rapists, cartels. I see why they come across the border, because they need to stay safe. They need to stay somewhere safe where their children can grow up without having the fear that they need to watch over their backs every day, without the fear of them being brutally beaten or raped. I see why. I see why right here, right now. So, what I think, and this is only my suggestion, if the president and the vice president, or whoever is next to the president that hears this, please, I beg of you, let them seek asylum. Don't let them across, but make them seek asylum. And if you just continue to make them seek asylum, maybe they'll slow down on coming in. Or maybe you guys could give them the virus vaccine before they enter the U.S. Give them masks, give them food, give them clothes. Or give them the vaccine entirely. So please, do both of those if you can. I understand what Kamala Harris means. Kamala Harris is the vice president, the first woman vice president. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And if Madam Vice President sees this, forgive me, but I kind of think that they should be allowed. But I know it's not really my opinion. It's not really my say-so. I know it's not. I respect you and Biden's decision on the border. I respect the decisions that our leaders make for us. I'm fine with I feel safe. I just feel safe, but from a person that has relatives in Texas near the Mexican border, I see that I think the Mexicans are kind of angry at us for one thing. Second of all, I think they're not. I don't know. But the one thing, I'm watching the show called All American. But in the show right now, this is getting off topic. I know you guys probably don't have time to hear this, and we're literally 33 minutes into the damn video. But guys, if you guys could listen to me, so basically, any of the black kids that are out there listening to this, any of the Hispanic kids listening to this, I'm just telling you, if you live in a community where there are Confederate flags flying everywhere and there are people yelling, we're better off being the Confederate States. If people are saying that to you, or people are discriminating you because of your race, or they just say, oh yeah, you can't play with us because you're this color, just ignore them. They're just being rude and they're just being racist. And I know that many kids out there are dealing with a racial issue, especially in the South, in the deep South, where I live, in Florida. In Florida, I don't think Florida is racist, but I think Florida is halfway racist. It's not racist, but I think it's incredibly racist, the way people get paid. I don't see why Mississippi kept the Confederate banner in the corner of their flag. that I was against, but when I saw the new flag design, I think it's a good change, and I think it's a great change. I think it's a change. I think Mississippi is trying to show all the other southern states, like Georgia, that has the stars and bars as their flag, that they should think about changing their flag. Virginia and North Carolina and South Carolina, their flag, their flags are fine. I'm totally good with their flags. Their flags have a good, unique design. Florida's flag, I'm not a fan of the cross, the X. I'm not a fan of the X. But it is a fan. I am a fan of the seal. I'm a fan of the seal and the white banner. But I'm not really a fan of Alabama's flag. Theirs is just a white banner with a cross, an X. I think they could change that to sort of a southern design, like have a picture, or like maybe just say, or maybe have an emblem that has one thing that has like a coat of arms that shows what the Alabamians went through, or what. So first they could put the U.S. flag on one side, the Confederate flag on the other. Then put their, after the Civil War, they could put their state flag. From after the Civil War, they could put their current state flag, or if they plan to change their state flag, they could put the new one in there, in that area. And the thing is that I've made my own U.S. flag. And here's the thing, in the stars, in the middle of the stars, has a coat of arms. It has the British flag, then the U.S. flag, then the Confederate flag, and then and then the flag of Washington, D.C., because I really think that Washington, D.C. can make themselves close to statehood. They're so close. If they can hold out and pull out for a while longer, they can be the 51st state. And it's not like I don't think that, like, territories like Puerto Rico, it's not like I don't think Puerto Rico could be a state. I think Puerto Rico could be a state. I seriously think that Puerto Rico could be a state. If Puerto Rico could be a state, this would be phenomenal. Part of Latin America, an island of Latin America, a part of the United States of America. This would be historic. People would look through history books, and they'd remember the 51st state. And I think that Washington, D.C. should be a state, because it's the oldest district in the history of the United States. It's been here since 1792. This is the oldest district in the U.S. It's the oldest district. The oldest district. I really think that it should be a state because of how long it's been waiting. It's been waiting since... And you know what? I'm going to have a quiet montage of all the presidential elections. And just tell you who I'd vote for in 1860. It would be Abe Lincoln. So, this is the first half of the video. So, after I go through all of those up until Lincoln, I will end the video here. I'm just going to show you a little bit of multitasking, how to get 3 drinks at one time, okay? So we have one drink that's just a straight drink.